Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Conversations in Community. A few things I wanted to talk about before we get started. First, this episode will be 2 episodes. There's just so much content, great content that I wanted to share, and that's because a few weeks back I had the chance to talk with Willi Myles, an honor for me. He's a comedian, businessman, inspirational speaker, you name it, he's probably done it. By the way, I've posted his website to this thread right now, so if you'd like to know more about him, check him out there. He is also a black man living in Minnesota, and I wanted to talk to him about his experiences with racism, both in the South, where he grew up, but also here in the North, in Minnesota, where he currently lives, as I mentioned. Now, I've got to say, I'm a bit anxious about this, because I don't want to do the wrong thing, nor do I want to say the wrong thing, but this is too big of an issue not to talk about. And C and I certainly talked. We talked a lot. We talked about his experiences with law enforcement, and those experiences aren't always good. We talked about how he doesn't see a whole lot of people that look like him in the media, my old stomping grounds, or in the corporate, the business worlds. We talked about why he and many of his black friends act differently around white people. It was a conversation that lasted more than an hour, probably about an hour and a half. So I've edited it down for time, but I'll post the entire conversation on YouTube if you're interested here in the coming days. Now, there are so many questions I wish I would have asked, but I hope all my friends, and specifically my white friends, can use this conversation like I did as an opportunity to listen and understand a different perspective. Because I certainly don't have the same experiences as he does, especially with law enforcement. And again, this is where I get a little anxious because I don't want to do the wrong thing. I have plenty of friends who are cops who I admire, and I'm sure Willi does too. But I am also learning this goes beyond one person. This even goes beyond law enforcement. This is about the systems in place in America. This isn't about me or my experiences. It's about Willi and people like him and their experiences, and how we can simply listen and learn. Because at the end of the day, this issue of racism is for white folks to fix. We broke it. So, my first question to him was about what goes through his head and his heart when he sees a headline of a black man or black woman killed by police, and specifically about George Floyd.
This has happened a while back, but I still get emotional talking about it. And I say that because it was probably one of the first times I could put my face on that young man's face. I could see myself in his position. I think when I first saw it, I wasn't in disbelief because, again, if anybody knows my background, or if you just go to my website and look, you'll see I was born and raised in Mobile, Alabama. I grew up right in the heart of the civil rights movement down south, and I've seen that before. I've seen it many times. That was the first time seeing it as an adult in a place I wouldn't expect to see it. And I thought to myself, how can this be happening? How can that 9 minutes, you cannot unsee it. It was horrific. And I remember it was over my birthday weekend. And I remember my wife probably gave me the longest hug that she's given me since the day we got married. I mean, she saw the pain in my face. I've never cried so much as a grown man until you see the breath of a person's body and the casualty of the person doing it. Just casual, just sunglasses on top of the head. I'll never get that image out of my head. Mm-hmm. Hand in pocket. That was horrific. And anybody saw anything different than that had their eyes closed. And you cannot see it. And it brought back so many memories of where I grew up and how I saw people being treated. And when I say people, I meant African Americans being treated by police. I saw that with my own eyes, and then I saw it again and again and again. And when you expect at some point you stop seeing that, and you didn't. And when I saw that day, it's just, God bless that young lady was standing there and videotaping that. And a lot of people are just saying, you know, they gave her so much flack, but there was nothing she could do. Absolutely nothing. She did exactly what she needed to do, and that was to record it for history.
You know, I've heard from other Black friends of mine who say, you know, when they see these types of events, they're just tired. They're tired. Do you feel the same way? And if so, what kind of expound on that a little bit?
It takes a piece of you, man. When you see it, it just takes Breonna Taylor. It takes a piece of you. Tamir Rice. It takes a piece of you. Eric Garner. It takes a piece of you. Every time you see it, you know, Sandra Bland. It takes a piece of you. You just think, when will people understand that this isn't right? These are things you should not die for. These are things that constantly, consistently keep happening over and over and over. And people keep saying the same old, which irritates me more than anything. It's like, you know, why don't you just do what they say? Why don't you just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These things, you should, even if you don't do what they say, you shouldn't die from those acts. Those are not things to die from. Is it something to be locked up for? Yes. Is it something to be maybe handcuffed for? Yes. To die is not a death sentence. And we keep seeing it over and over again. And I think, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because we all know that it could be us. It could be one of us. And I say to my friends, my white friends, you never, ever worry about that. You see that and you know that's never going to be you. I don't. I couldn't tell you that. Today, I couldn't tell you that. I couldn't tell you that 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I always thought it would be me. And I still think it's going to be me. And that's a horrible way to live.
Yeah, what's that like to go through life like that, or to, you know, see a squad car and maybe me thinking, oh, hope I don't get pulled over because I don't want to pay the ticket, whereas you have perhaps a different feeling.
Yeah, the ticket is nothing to me. I can afford the ticket. To me, and I'll tell you this, and this is something you probably don't do. And I've talked to a lot of my friends, a lot of entertainers, a lot of white entertainers. I bet you don't put your wallet in your cup holder when you get in the car. That's the first thing I do when I get in my car. I've been doing it for years because I don't want to have the cop not see my hand. And I get pulled over. I assume I'm going to get pulled over. That's how bad it is. You know, and most people who know me, been knowing me for a long time, I love nice SUVs. I've driven, you know, this is okay, this is a little bragging, but, you know, Escalade, H3, Range Rover, you know what I mean? 550 Mercedes, you know, SUVs. I love them. I love the rims. I love the lighted tinted windows. And I want my vehicle to stand out just a skosh, you know what I mean? But I know I'm going to get pulled over. And I got pulled over so many times, but I put my wallet right there. When the police pulled me over, and it was a lot, I rolled down all 4 windows. I turn my dome light on, and I sit there, and I know I'm not getting pulled over for speeding. I know I'm not getting pulled over running a red light. I know, because I don't do that when I'm driving at night. I just don't do it. I know why I'm getting pulled over. And it's the scariest thing in life. Sometimes I call my wife. I have a friend who lives in Vegas. I have a friend who lives in LA that if I'm driving back late at night from, say, Bemidji or central Wisconsin or central Iowa, or central North Dakota or South Dakota, I call my friends. So some want to be on the phone with me. I want my hand on the wheel. And when the police walks up to me, I want to be respectful. Even though I know I've had my car searched for no reason, like with dogs. And I tell them, all my friends know I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, ever, my whole entire life. And so I told them, I said, You have at it, man. You can sniff any way you want. My lawyer told me, don't ever do that again. He goes, don't you ever do that again. You call me. That's what you do. I'm always concerned when I'm driving at night. So I don't hardly anymore now. I really don't. I will stay overnight. I always had a rule, if it was 100 miles or less, I drove home after my show. Now, stay overnight, get up in the morning, drive in broad daylight so I'm around people. You know what I mean? And that's scary. That's sad.
And you touched a bit on this, but what experiences have you had when it comes to systemic racism that go beyond law enforcement? It's certainly not just law enforcement.
No, I'm talking everything from every job I think I've ever had. And I can give you a few examples. Like, for instance, even as a comedian, and people don't think this, but it is. It's as an entertainer, when I was doing the club scene, first, like, they will tell you when you go into a comedy club, the club owner always says, hey, here's what you can't say on stage. You can't say these words, you can't say this, you can't say this, you can't say this. They only said that to black comedians. The white comedians would walk up and say exactly what he just told us not to say. And you be back there going, what? And that's exactly how it worked. I worked in the hospitality industry before I started doing comedy. When I moved to Minneapolis, after several years of management, I remember accepting a job that I knew the guy who had the job before me and what he got paid, I was more qualified than he was, and they offered me almost 30% less than what he was making. And that was every job I applied for. Every time when I accepted a job, they looked at my qualifications, and I was thinking to myself, every single time I got to go through this.
You feel like you have to work 2, 3, 4 times harder?
And that's what we were taught. That's what we were taught. And I did. I grinded it out, man. I really, honestly, I didn't find my worth until the first hotel job I had that I found my real worth, other than when I started with Holiday Inn, was Mystic Lake. Now you're working at a Native American casino hotel, helping them build their first hotel. I managed, opened, trained, and did everything at that hotel. And that was the first time I sat in a room and they asked me what salary are you looking for? And I told them, and they didn't blink. And that was the first time I thought, I don't think I asked for enough.
And that's your immediate next stop. Crap.
He didn't even say, I think we can do it. He goes, okay. We try to be the best versions of ourselves, to make you comfortable. You try to say the right things, you try to dress a certain way, you try to be a certain way, and try to pretend like stuff don't bother you, just to get through the day. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting. And to hear people say stuff, like sometimes I'd be around, like, even like my neighbors, I just moved into a brand new neighborhood. When you walk through the neighborhood, it's like, what do I wear? Do I want to wear this? This looks aggressive. You know what I mean?